Price here for MiniMotorsUSA. Today I'm going to walk you through a tire change on a Thunder 3. First thing, I'm going to walk you through the tools you'll need. You need a couple of flathead screwdrivers, P2 Phillips screwdriver, a 3 and a 4 millimeter Allen tool, dead blow hammer, an 18-19 millimeter socket, and not necessary to have an impact driver, but it will make your life a little easier. I like to start by removing the rear mudguard. There are 4 Allen head screws that mount that rear mudguard to the rear arms. Use a 3 millimeter Allen tool to get those. Next, we're going to remove the rear motor arm cap. That's where the P2 Phillips head screwdriver comes into play. There are 2 screws that mount that cap, one on top, one on bottom. So essentially what we're trying to do is remove this non-brake side arm. Next step is to remove the motor axle nut and suspension axle nut. 19 mil on the motor axle. And then 18 millimeter on the suspension axle. With that motor axle nut removed, you'll see this tab washer just behind. That tab is locking into the arm there, and on the first tire change, that tab is really pressed in there. So I like to use the dead blow hammer and just kind of tap on the arm, try to loosen that tab washer up a little bit. And then take this big flathead screwdriver and try to kind of free it up a little bit there. And sometimes you can just get it a little bit. Come back with the smaller flathead to get just behind it, in between the arm there. And then you should be able to just pry that thing right off. With that tab washer removed, you're going to want to rip off this rear arm. It can be pretty tough on your first tire change. You know, these arms come powder coated, makes it a really tight fit. What I like to do is grab that dead blow hammer and kind of knock up on it, down, try to hit out on it from the side. Usually that frees it up pretty good. And just kind of rocking it back and forth. Take that arm, just rest it back there. If you're having a really tough time, I like to use this flathead screwdriver and kind of wedge it between the motor and that arm and that suspension block in the top of the arm there, but not necessary if you give it a good whack with the hammer. With that non-brake side arm out of the way, we can see the motor to rim screws. There's 6 around the perimeter of the motor here. This is where traditionally Dualtron used a ton of Loctite, so your first tire change was real tough. Now they just use a little bit of blue Loctite. It's really not too bad. I'm gonna show you the first one with an Allen tool. They use a little bit of blue Loctite, so they are a little stuck on there, but shouldn't be too bad. Should just crack like that. This is where the impact makes the job go a little quicker. 4 millimeter bit. Well, there's your tire change, pretty straightforward. This is a brand new Thunder 3, so we're just gonna put the same tire and rim back on, but you'll obviously have a new tire and rim. You just reverse the steps to get it back on. I will say, if you do use Loctite on those motor rim screws, use blue as a max. We never really use any Loctite here. Also, there are no torque specs on any of the screws, on any of the Dualtrons. Just get them all fairly hand tight and snug with a hand tool.